welcome to another beautiful Sunday. And of course, you're hanging out with Mike and Shiko on our podcast. Yes, another episode of Exodus. This is part 2. How are you doing? How's your week?
My week was good. It was long, I feel like, and draining, but we made it through.
Anything good that happened over the week?
The highlight actually was church on Sunday, to be honest.
Oh yeah, by the way, big shout out to Reverend Faith and her team, Nairobi Chapel, Lavington. Oh my, she gave a very interesting sermon.
It was just a really, really good sermon.
And you wrote a lot of notes. You're supposed to share. There's something about the breakdown of how she said we should be spending money.
Yes, it was on finances.
Yeah. There's something you wrote down, and I think I should have a copy of that.
And we made a big decision, Mike and I. Do you remember what we said? We decided we're going to start tithing for real.
Oh, yeah. We decided we'll start tithing.
Yes, offering we've been good at, but tithing, and for those of you may or may not know, tithing is where you give 1/10 of your income to the church or back to God.
What was your takeaway from that sermon?
My money is not mine. I'm just the manager of the money.
You're the manager of God's money.
Of God's money. And so I shouldn't look at it as giving to God. It's giving back what's already His. He gave me this money to manage, and it's only right that I give back.
Sour. You're looking at me like you want me to give you my takeaway.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I'm going to be broke next month.
No, another thing, what made it so convincing was the Bible tells us all the time, take that leap of faith and give to God what's His and see how much He does for you.
Yeah, that is true.
So don't be afraid. Don't have a scarcity mentality. Just do it with an open heart, open mind, and get ready for blessings.
Your miracle, basically. Yeah, so my week has been cool. I've been doing a lot of the morning show. My body clock is all messed up right now.
Yeah, you're napping at weird hours.
Napping at weird hours. Yeah, I find that weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, tutapambana too.
Yes.
We must do what we must do. So it's another episode of Mike and Shiko right here. We found a name, first of all. So the name is Heart to Heart with Mike and Shiko. That is going to be the name of the podcast. In fact, you'll notice that we have now changed the name on both Apple Podcast, on Spotify, and also we've done the same on the YouTube page, so that we can start, having heart-to-heart conversations. And they're going to be grown conversations about navigating life in your 30s and 40s, especially in a relationship, and a relationship that includes kids in a blended situation. And if you listen to the previous episode, we were talking about how to leave toxic relationships. And I think we used a lot of our own examples. We thank you so much for everyone who dropped a comment and even shared some of their stories, which was interesting because I thought our stories were a bit unique, but a lot of other people are going through that.
A lot, and I find it so encouraging to know that we can build a community of people who have had similar experiences, maybe are going through the same thing, so they look and they can see they're not alone. I think there's something really special about that.
That is true. So we split Exodus into 2 parts. The first part was leaving that toxic relationship, but after you leave that relationship, there is the reality of the fact that you're carrying scars, you're carrying wounds, and you must find a way to heal from those wounds. And for the most part, I don't know how a lot of people know I've healed from my traumatic past relationship. I don't know how they sit back and say, okay, now I'm truly okay. I don't know about you, but for me personally, I find that I know I've healed when I stop obsessing about what did not happen or what did happen. And I start feeling like, you know what, I've accepted it, it's done, it's in the past, let's move.
So during the healing process or before you heal, you go over the how could you have avoided this situation?
Yes. Yes, I actually overanalyze it. I will flip it upside down. I'll think about, okay, what if I did this way? Could I have tried harder? Was I being unreasonable? And a lot of the times I find like during that process of healing, there's a lot of self-blame where you feel like maybe you are the reason why this situation did not work and this situation turned out the way it did. And I found out, I think in my process healing from my toxic relationship was I healed simply by learning how to accept that this has happened. That aspect of acceptance and not trying to fight the need of, you know what, maybe I've got another word to put in this and then say, you should have done this or you should have done that. And I found that interesting. But right now I feel like I'm at a better place. Like I really feel at peace.
You feel like you've healed.
Yes, I feel like I've healed, and whatever happened, and I'm a better person for it.
Are there specific actions you took to get to this place? I know at one point you were feeling that way. You are over analytical and going through everything that happened in the relationship, and now you're not. So were there specific things you did between then and now to get you to where you are?
You helped a lot. The spending time together and that distraction. I think having a distraction was important. Finding something else that you put your mind to. You put your mind and your heart into it, and you develop a certain respect for it and a certain love for it. And it could be anything for anyone. I mean, I was lucky I had you in my life at that time. But it could be anything. It could be a sport. It could be exercise. It could just finding something that you love and you commit to. And I feel like by doing so, that process of, you know what, I'm going to focus on our friendship. And I kept on looking for excuses about, you know, let's hang out, let's do this or let's do that. I think that really, really was a helping part in terms of the healing, that eventually I just ended up saying, you know what, I accept that this has happened. And I remember there's a time you actually called me out on it whenever I'd have conversations with my ex because a child is involved, and you tell me, Mike, the problem with you is when you have conversations with her, you keep on saying things like, this is why I broke up with you, this is why I did this, which now in hindsight I realize that maybe at that time I was still over analyzing in my head. And when I stopped, I just felt a lot better.
It used to feel like you needed to get a lot off your chest still about what had happened in the relationship and convince yourself almost that this is the reason. It's like you are still trying to convince yourself of the reason things didn't work out.
Yes, it came off that way. However, I wouldn't say convince myself, more of I was trying to make sure that she understood. Yeah, she seemed like she didn't understand, but I needed for myself to know that she has understood. I wasn't going to go back on what I decided to do and walking away, but I needed for her to understand. Because considering that there was a child involved, the fact that she's going to be a part of my life moving forward because of that child, I needed her to understand, you know, this is one of the reasons why we cannot be together because of this and this and this. But I realized that really doesn't help because people, I find, when they're told that they are wrong, in a way, they take offense to it. Now, sometimes maybe they don't see their mistake. To them, what you feel is normal, to them is something wrong, or vice versa. And I found like it's an effort in futility, trying to convince someone that, hey, you are wrong in this aspect, and just accepting the fact that this person is this way. I've accepted all that has happened. I accept that this is not going to work, and I've decided, you know what, let me look at the next chapter of my life.
Just accepting that you two were not a good fit for each other.
The art of acceptance is something that I find a lot of people struggle with, to accept that this is your reality. I can imagine even for single moms, when you sit back and realize, oh my God, I've been left behind with this kid, right? You have to first learn how to accept, this is my reality. And the minute you accept that that is your reality, then moving forward becomes a very easy decision to make.
First of all, I do think healing is so important before you can successfully move on.
Yes.
And for me, I think my process was very raw. Like, I allowed myself to feel all the feels. I allowed myself to feel regret over the failure of not managing to successfully have a relationship. I realized at no point in time did I miss my ex. It was just feeling like, man, I just didn't want a breakup. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You wanted to succeed at having a family all together. And so that's what I regretted. It was the loss of that idea of a family.
Yes.
Never feeling like I missed the person. So it was dealing with that feeling of loss and failure that I grappled with for many months after the relationship ended. And I allowed myself to cry myself to sleep at night, to be sad, to be happy, to go out and have more fun than I should have some nights. I mean, I allowed myself to go through all the feelings, all the emotions, until it got to a place where I felt we were not a good fit for each other. And then there's the parental guilt of you've hurt your children by denying them that perfect family, denying them the two parents who are together. But there's mountains and mountains of evidence that shows children are more damaged in miserable homes where the parents are fighting, and they're more damaged by that than they are by divorce.
And it's so interesting how I've noticed that kids are very intuitive.
Very scarily so.
You can sit back and you think that just because we don't argue in front of them that they can't tell, but they tell.
They tell. And my kids will say things like, Mom, you look so happy. Like they were so surprised.
Yes.
They don't know what they're saying. They don't know the deeper meaning of what they're saying, but you do. And I realized I wanted my kids to see the best version of me. And that version was happy, not scared when she's not outside her own bedroom. I wanted them to see a happy, thriving mom. They deserve the best of me. And those are the things I would remind myself when I was feeling that sadness of, this failure. It felt like a failure.
Yeah. You said during your healing, there was a point you cried yourself to sleep.
Many points.
Times.
Yeah.
I didn't cry, should I?
Well, I know. I'm a crier. You know me.
Yeah,
I cry.
I know you're a crier, but like how people say like men shouldn't cry and how we're supposed to be these tough individuals. I did shed tears, but I didn't shed tears because of my ex.
No.
I shed tears because of my daughter.
Exactly, which is good. And I encouraged you.
Terribly.
Yes.
Yeah, and that for me was my point of pain. The fact that I knew I couldn't hold her anymore. And I had this little routine I had with her when I would get home and she would cry because she was born and she had eczema. And so she used to cry a lot because she was itchy. There was a way I used to cradle her and she would really calm down. So to this day, I actually miss that.
Of course
about that. Yeah, you're right. Healing is important before you move on.
Yes.
Here's the thing though. How do you know truly you've healed though? Like, what's that marker? What's that thing that says, you know what? Okay, now you're fine. Get back into the dating scene. I know there are guys who take a hiatus. Like after a bad breakup, they say, you know what? F these streets. I'm out there. I'm going to just chill by myself, be a loner. Which is better though? To like isolate yourself or to be out there and be with the Watus?
Wait, when you say isolate yourself or be with the Watus, do you mean jump into a new relationship or do you just mean socialize?
Being social. Like there are people who like when they get out of a really toxic relationship, they tend to withdraw from society, and you tell yourself, I don't want to interact with people. I'm too miserable right now. And then there are those who they'll be partying like forever. Like now that was me. I got out of it and I was out on these streets of Nairobi saw me. But what is better there?
Personally, I don't think there is a better or worse. I don't shame people who go out and have a whole phase. I don't shame people who become recluses. I think every healing journey is different. As long as you're being safe and you're checking in with yourself, healing looks different for different people. And there comes a point where I feel everyone has this moment of reckoning that says, okay, I've gone through it now. I've worked through my emotions, whatever that looked like.
Yeah.
And now I don't need to party as hard anymore, or I don't need to stay in the house as much anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm ready to get back to a normal.
It's like you've gone through your stages of grief.
But I think so. I think it looks different for everyone.
But then again, how do you know you've healed? Because there are people, for example, who carry that baggage of that toxic relationship onto the next relationship. Let's say you've stayed a year or 2 years without dating, but those scars are there. They're real. And in fact, you find yourself, you're more alert to red flags than ever before. And every small thing can be a trigger. How do you know that, you know what, now I'm okay to get back into this scene? I don't even know how I knew.
Yeah.
But I just felt this was right.
Yeah. And I don't know how to explain it either, because everyone leaves the relationship with certain wounds and scars.
Yeah.
And some of them will wear off before you meet your next person. Some of them won't. But maybe some of them shouldn't. Like if you've been in an abusive relationship, the next relationship, of course, you will be more alert to red flags, as you should be.
Yeah.
If you've been cheated on, if you've been disrespected, if you've had a partner who doesn't fulfill a role for you that you feel men should fulfill, protector, leader, the next time you meet a guy in the first 30 minutes, you'll be like, yeah, I know you're a joker and ain't nobody got time for that. So I feel like some things are wounds that should heal before you move to the next relationship. Other things are scars to remind you of what's important. And you shouldn't forget them. I think.
Yeah, I guess there are those scars you can carry and say, like, they're lessons learned. Let's not even call them a scar.
Yeah, they're lessons. And everyone should learn from their experiences. You just went through a breakup, a toxic relationship. This is what you've learned. But there are some things that are hang-ups that you should probably let go of because it's not fair to the other person.
Do you feel like you carried anything?
I think there must be. If you were to name one that is not too personal, my gosh.
That's not too personal. I think in the initial stages, when we were now officially dating and everything, subconsciously you expected me to like kind of take over immediately from, where your ex left off. Like there were certain routines you had in life, right? And you had me jump into them like from the get-go. And I remember I felt like at that point, I'm also going through my shit, and I'm going through a similar journey basically. But it's kind of like you had these rules and like I had to do this at this time, or that constant need for communication or reassurance that this is real and this is happening and this is our future for the next few years. And I feel like initially you put in so much expectation, a lot of it, and it used to catch me by surprise. And sometimes it was almost like I want this guy to be my ideal man now. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna wait, I'm not gonna give him time to even have a second thought at all. And I felt like maybe that's something because of the disappointment that you were coming from. You had set these rules to protect you from that disappointment.
Yes. So that I know if you cannot meet this standard, I know very quickly.
Like this is not gonna work.
This is not gonna work. If he cannot be the kind of man that I need him to be, I don't want to waste another 7 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was kind of that feeling like I don't want to be disappointed again. I don't want to be shocked that someone can't be the man I want him to be. I want to know now.
Guys, let me tell you, it was so intense. I think the early days, we used to fight a lot. Like we would have arguments and it used to be over the silliest things.
Yeah, it used to be over tiny things.
Tiny
Small,
little things.
Like now I look back and I'm
like, really? We were fighting over that?
Yeah.
And then I remember when we used to have our arguments, and I think that's why nowadays at least it's not that way. But I think that's one of the reasons why I used to walk away a lot, because I was dealing also with my things, but I wasn't as open with you about my emotions and how I'm feeling. In fact, you used to like prodding me about it and saying, tell me how you feel. Yeah. You used to ask me that all the time. And for some reason, I couldn't say it because for me, I felt like that's my problem to deal with, right? And that's why I used to walk away when we'd have arguments. I'll be like, you know what? Okay, fine. We're going down this path. Okay, we're fighting. Fine. You deal with yours, me, I deal with mine. And I just walk away. And it used to frustrate me so much because I'd have this notion in my head. Why doesn't she understand?
Okay, I think the one I think we still deal with now is I have a hard time allowing you, as you call it, to, like the way you ask me, do you have a man? Like, I will ask you things or worry about things that you feel are yours to worry about as the man in the relationship. And it's because I was so used to being that.
The man in the relationship.
Yeah, like I'm the one who used to worry about.
Because I always wonder, babe, like you sit back and you worry about something and I'm like, babe, see, you have a man. Can you relax?
That is new for me. So that's something that I know we're still working through now. Like even now, we're talking in Mike's home office. There's been a Nairobi water bill that's there that I've had to fight from looking at. He hasn't shown it to me, but I know it's there. And I feel like going to look at it. But that's one of the things, because I used to be the one to
pay the water,
pay the bills, talk to the landlord. Even the other day when you wanted to talk to the kids' school on on my behalf.
Yeah, I was asking you, like, if there's an issue, let me go talk to the school.
So unheard of for me. So I think that's one where, if you're used to doing a certain thing a certain way in the previous relationship, you find it hard to adjust.
I struggle with that sometimes with you. I'll admit it. Sometimes I feel like you need to just let go of that control that you feel like you need so that your mind can be at ease. And I understand where it comes from. I mean, when you deal with that kind of trauma for the duration of time you dealt with, there are certain safety measures that you've put around yourself. Even moving to this house, I remember you kept on telling me, like, I want to know that I'm in a house that in case you decide to bounce, I know I can take care of my kids.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, I don't want to move into a house where I can't pay rent on my own should you decide to leave. Yeah, so it's that control thing. Okay, let me say for you, the things I think, the scars you've carried.
Yeah, what do you think of carrying?
Sometimes with you, I feel like you're cautious of being scammed or cheated or someone being dishonest with you. So sometimes you'll question something and I'll be like, why would you think I would lie about something like that? But I think it comes from your ex or someone being dishonest. So I get offended because I'm like, I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, I know that, but it's because of that thing I told you about. That when you and I started dating, I remember I told you that it's very easy for someone to take advantage of me. Extremely easy. Like, if I'm in love with you, it's like a golden ticket. Yeah, you would take advantage of me to the point that people would look at me and say, this guy is a fool. You know what I mean? And so because of that, I feel like I need that reassurance. I'm a guy who constantly needs that reassurance to be told, like, hey, you know what? I got you. I have your back. I'm not going to do this to you. I'm not going to mess you up. Like, I got you. Because I'm very good at being a man in the ideal sense of a man. I'm very good at providing. I'll be very good at protecting. I'll be very good at making sure that everyone is okay.
And leading.
Yes, and also leading. I am, however, very poor at taking care of myself.
Yes.
So I leave that responsibility with the person I'm with. For that to happen, I need an immense sense of trust, like what we have, for me to be, you know what, I don't have to worry about that. Shiko got my back. Yeah.
I sometimes do feel like there's things that have happened in your previous relationships to do with loss of trust that make you, sometimes those insecurities come out and you question certain things, and I find them high-key offensive because I'm like, excuse me, first of all, like, why would you ever think that? But no, I know where it comes from.
It's only natural, not to say that it's like I don't trust you. I truly trust you. I really do. And if someone came to me and told me, hey, you know what, I saw Shiko kissing some other guy, my first instinct would to feel like, please shut up.
What are you saying?
What are you saying? You know, that would be my first instinct. But it's that lingering intrusive thought that's in your head. Like sometimes, like if you tell me last minute, because Shiko and I communicate a lot about our plans for the day. This is what I'm going to do. In fact, she just always wants to know the entire plan. So what's your plan for the day? Yeah. But, you know, sometimes when you surprise me and you like leave the office and then you say, oh, I'm meeting a friend. And you didn't tell me and I didn't know, you know. So that now triggers those intrusive thoughts like, who's this friend? I mean, why didn't you tell me earlier? And yet, I find like you don't carry the same.
No, because for me, that's not one of the wounds I have suffered in a relationship. But wanting someone to be the kind of man that you are, like to be a man, yes, I have. And so, yeah, that's why you don't see that. For me, the dishonesty and lack of trust is not something I have dealt with. So it's not at the forefront of my mind. So do you think you've healed in every area? Yes,
except maybe the only part that I haven't healed is in relation to now like my family. Like there are things that happened there, especially from my dad's side, that I still feel I carry a lot of.
Oh, you're talking about so not just in your relationship.
Not just in my relationship.
Okay.
That's the one thing I know for sure I've not dealt with to this day. But in terms of my relationship, oh, trust me, I think I've come full circle. Literally, like I've gone through the entire spectrum of emotions. I have tried everything, and just knowing that I have you, and like just that idea, knowing that, you know what, Shiko has my back, that gives me all the peace I need. And you remember the time I was admitted in hospital? And then you came to see me and you sat with me all day. And then after I was discharged, weeks later, when you told me the truth about what the doctor said. And then I thought about it after you told me, when the doctor said that, you know what, this guy could actually leave us.
He is not saying, he was in HDU.
Yeah, I was in HDU. And I thought it was just a normal thing. Like, I'm just in hospital, I'm going to get treated and leave. And the fact that you were there, you knew this information. She didn't share it with me, by the way. She told me way after. Then I thought about it and I was like, wow. How did she keep it together, knowing the emotional person?
I am very emotional, and the doctor had to pull me aside and be like, you're going to have to be strong for him, because we can't tell him how bad things are, and you can't show because it'll get worse. So you have to keep it from him. We're just going to tell him this when actually this is how serious it is.
Yeah.
And it was hard, but of course, because I love you so much, I held my tears. What I did tell you was that I was so distracted during the week when he was in HDU. I had an accident. Y'all, I've not even had an accident since I don't even remember.
Oh, yeah.
I had an accident, like a little fender bender. Like, my mind was just, I don't even know where. But no, he pulled through.
But as much as that trauma wasn't appreciated, but thinking about it now in hindsight, now that gives me the comfort of knowing, you know, like, she would do that for me. Yeah. So it showed me how important I am to you. And so I don't have those intrusive thoughts as much anymore. Like, if you told me you were going out nowadays, all I just want to know is, you know, at what time are you coming back? That's the kind of information probably I'd want. Who you went to meet with or whatever, that I really don't care.
But I actually think, because I know that you have dealt with cases of dishonesty in the past, I don't actually mind. You know, after a while I was like, you know what, he's like this because of what he went through. So if he needs that reassurance, it doesn't hurt me to give it. You know what I mean? And I think when you're moving on, like when you're in a relationship with someone who has had a difficult past relationship, you should be sensitive to that. Like, if you're with a woman who needs reassurance like I do about your ability to be reliable and dependable and strong for her and her kids, why not demonstrate that every chance you get?
Yeah, that is very true. I find that some ways in which also you are still struggling with trauma, or rather that you came with from your previous relationship, is, for example, things like when there's small things that your ex can do that can trigger you. Small things like a message, and I understand that communication has to happen because, I mean, kids are involved. But there's small things, he can text something, or he can say something, or he can do something that still trigger you. And to me, I find it sometimes hard because I feel like punching the wall. About it. I mean, it's really frustrating knowing that, you know, someone has that kind of power over the person you love. But I understand why you feel that way, why you feel triggered. However, with time, have you found like it's getting less and less and less? Yeah,
you know, I think healing is made harder when you have a terrible relationship with your fellow co-parent and your ex. I did not struggle with my ex-husband.
Yes.
The healing process looked very different because from the very beginning, we had a very amicable relationship.
Yes.
And so healing didn't have that aspect of fighting and arguing. You know what I mean? That was before the breakup. After the breakup, it was acceptance. And we knew we both put the child first. We trusted each other enough to know that. So there was no fighting. Yes, there was kind of thing, over what? Like, we were so on the same page about what was best, you know, for her. But when healing has to happen and you have to keep forgiving someone who maybe you feel at the time doesn't even deserve that forgiveness, it's hard. It's like reopening a wound. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like you keep getting scarred over. Like, before the scab has formed, it's ripped open again by another fight, another argument. And for sure, I do think difficult co-parenting dynamics get easier as time goes by for the ones that start out difficult. And so I hope that when that happens, things are easier to not get triggered. There'll be no reason to get triggered. Now when things are so volatile, I prefer to just talk talk through the lawyers. And I think that's easiest for everyone.
Yeah, that is true. Because then at least there's a buffer.
Yes.
Yeah, that prevents a lot of potentially bad situations happening.
Exactly.
Do you fear though? Do you get scared? For example, kids grow up.
Yeah.
Right? Eventually they grow up and they have minds of their own. Does it stand as a fear even as now you've healed, we're married, we've moved on, it's now, let's say, the kids are in their late teens and everything, and they want to stay with your ex? Do you have that fear, first of all? And number two, would it bring back any feelings of scarring or pain that happened from Kitambo?
I don't think so about the pain, but obviously as a mom, and you know the way I am as a mom,
Yeah.
I'm very attached to my children. So the thought of not seeing them every day
Yes.
kills me. However, I don't know if you
Yeah,
heard
yeah, yeah.
me. I also tell one of my children, the older one, that if she ever reached a point where she wanted to live with her other family, I would respect her.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. Like when she's old enough to make that decision, that's okay. And of course, because she's a mommy's girl, she's, like, never, that's never gonna happen. Which in my heart,
Yeah.
I'm like, phew, I don't have to deal with that now.
Yeah.
So I hope that I'll have the same feeling about my other children, where it's like, when they're old enough to make such a decision,
Yeah.
I want to respect whatever they decide. As long as they're going to a safe environment, a
Yes.
healthy environment, I will want to respect. But will I miss them? Of course.
The reason I'm asking this is because there are reasons why, relationships don't work with exes. Now, for example, if your ex has a certain type of maybe behavior that you don't like, or a certain kind of character you don't like, and now these kids are going into that environment.
Yeah.
How do you handle that? I mean, on the one end, you don't want to take your kids away from the other parent. On the other end, when they go there, this is really not the best of environments for them to be in.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and that's why sometimes you have to involve the courts to
Yeah.
make that decision from a professional or legal standpoint.
Yeah.
So you can never be accused of it's just your emotions.
Yes.
This is a qualified person making that decision on behalf of the children, non-biased.
So, for those who are healing from something, or you're still in that process of healing, I want you to share your story. Please don't hesitate to do so. You can do so in the comments below. However, here's the thing. In the aspect of healing, there's another factor. Now you've healed, you're ready to move on. For those guys who are coming into a relationship with someone who has gone through a traumatic experience, let me explain to you something. The level of patience you need with that individual is on another level.
True.
And me, I'm talking out of experience here. Yeah.
On both sides.
On both sides.
Yeah.
And what are some of the things you think, in your opinion? Because I know for us, we Google searched our way through this process. Like we literally were two broken individuals, and we were trying to just find our way through the dark, and just find our way, and until we found a sense, at least a middle ground where we can both manage to love and accept each other.
And church helped a lot.
And church helped a lot. But what's that one advice for a guy who is going to date someone who went through something similar to what you went through?
Yeah.
Like, how do they go about it?
I mean, honestly, I think the two things you've said yourself, patience and reassurance.
Yeah.
Those are the most important things. Like, be patient, maybe three. Be patient, reassure your woman, and be someone she can rely on. Show that you're not going anywhere. You're committed to this relationship. You will love her and treat her like your baby, and you'll be patient with her. Period.
Yeah.
I think those are the most important things.
Do you think women find it unattractive when they meet men who are broken?
No, I don't think so.
Do you think so?
I would say for women who are the ones beginning to date men who are broken, allow that man the space to process his emotions in a raw manner and not feel any shame. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen you cry.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in that. I've seen you miss your daughters terribly. I've seen you get extremely angry at your ex. Being a safe space for your man, for him to feel like, okay, I can go and be vulnerable with her. I can go and tell her everything I'm thinking. I don't have to keep this in. I don't have to solve this myself.
Yeah.
For women, I would say be that safe space for the man who's coming in with wounds and scars from his previous relationship.
I know for me as a guy, I did not care about baby daddy drama. You never sat down and thought to yourself like,
Me I'm scared. I'll tell you that for free. I have heard of women having their hair pulled out. I didn't want my locks to be pulled out just by very vicious, angry exes.
Yeah.
So, I was worried because I just didn't know what kind of a situation I was walking into. I mean, you've just said you didn't, you weren't.
No, I wasn't scared.
But that's before you knew what the situation was.
No. Remember the first night we met, we shared a lot about our lives,
True.
And I looked you up, remember?
Yeah.
I even told you, hey, so you're that girl. Okay, good stuff. And I think my fear was what would happen if that whole situation with your ex was so traumatic to you that you shut me out.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know what? I don't want to date a guy again. I'm done with these men. Like, all men are trash and that kind of mentality. And then you say, you know what? You bounce. Like, that was...
Yeah, like I'm turned off of men forever because of that experience.
Because that would have been ridiculous. But you knowing me, I would not probably have given up.
Yeah, first of all, you wouldn't. And you showed me very early on how different you were from what I had experienced in the past.
Yeah.
So I think it was easy for me to be like, okay, this is the kind of man that I've prayed for. So I can't lump him with the rest of the trashy.
Why do we always use that word, I think?
Because it's so appropriate. It's like garbage.
No, yeah, trash is bad.
Trash is the bottom.
That's bottom of a gutter. Bisa.
Exactly.
Now I'm thinking like we had relied on each other, I think, on the early days so much. The pain was there. And I think at that point, we also both just needed that escape from our realities. And in a way, and here was this situation where we were in this kind of a honeymoon situation, and everything was beautiful. Everything was amazing.
Why are you saying was? Why is everything past tense?
Okay, but you know what I mean. Like there was that honeymoon phase. And there was a point where I feel like you kind of had accepted that this guy is not going anywhere. And then for some reason, it kind of was like, okay, the guy is broken for sure, but I'm going to roll the dice on this one and say, you know what? Sawa, let's give this a shot. I remember the first time I told you I love you.
Yeah, oh my God.
You remember that story? It was the most random thing.
Hilarious. And I laughed. I still laugh when I think about it because it came out by mistake. You know how you say Panyoks? In fact, his face after those words came out, his jaw dropped and he just stared ahead. He even looked away. He looked away with a gaping open mouth. Like, what did I just say?
Yeah.
And I burst out laughing because it came out so naturally because we were saying goodbye.
Yeah. And then
I'm like, okay.
He gave me a kiss. And then
he's like, okay, I love you.
Okay, love you. And then it just came out.
Yeah.
Oh my. I was like, damn.
And he was so shocked. But when you're saying like, I decided to roll the dice on you, I wouldn't even say that because yes, you were broken, but that's not who you were. Like Mike, you wear your heart on your sleeve.
Yeah.
Like I could tell you're a very caring man, you're a very sensitive man, you're a very smart man. Being broken was what had been done to you, not who you were. And I could see that. So I was very happy when you decided you were not going anywhere by force, by fire. Stop these nonsense stories.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was easy. I feel like, you guys have been sending so many lovely comments that relate to this podcast and what we talk about. You've been telling us how you resonate. And in my DMs, way before this podcast started, I would get so many stories from women who were really in the trenches of toxic relationships or in that phase of I've just left and literally I feel like my world is falling apart. So I feel like we also need to give hope because we've come out on the other side.
It is true. And I think for those people who feel like there's no hope, that isn't true. I see guys commenting about you and they say, I'm going to pray to the God of Shiko. No, there's no God of Shiko. It is God.
The same God for Abraham and Isaac.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes.
But he's also my God, yes.
But you need to have that hope, and you need to always give something a chance when you see it has the potential of being something great. I think before you give up on something, you must give it your best shot and try and see whether or not it's working. But however, you have to know what your standards are, not compromising on them, and if the other person's standards fit also with yours, so that you can both come together as one unit and you can function properly. Huwezi eka bricks za mbele uweke kwa handbrake. Apana. You have to be able to merge properly. And for men, I've got one huge piece of advice, and I'd like a man who's going through anything that's crazy as what I went through, to understand this. Please do not do that thing of shutting down and telling yourself that, you know what, mina kangumu, si ameenda ishie. And then you decide that, you know what, you're going to go around being a public utility for every single woman you meet in this Nairobi. I'll tell you this for free. The minute you keep compartmentalizing those feelings that this person, this woman truly did you wrong, this woman hurt you, bruised your ego, they bruised your feelings, your emotions, your heart completely, and you can feel it. The minute you start hiding from that, you're going to take it to another woman, and in a worse way. So you need to be able to accept the fact that, you know what, kama nilichezwa, it happened. If I've been raising another man's baby for the last 20 years and I thought it was mine, it happened. Forget about it. It has happened. Accept it. That is your reality. Move forward to your next relationship, always understanding that that situation does not define who you are as a person. That's just an emotion, and it's going to pass. Yeah.
I just want to speak to my girlies who may be in these situations that are terrible, that they feel trapped in. They are wondering how they can ever leave. I spoke the last time a lot about how difficult 2022 was. Hardest year of my life, rock bottom financially. But let me tell you something. God is a God who restores. I'm terrible at Bible verses, but there's a Bible verse people have even been quoting to me about how God restores what the locusts have eaten.
Yes.
And I have seen that in so many ways. Like financially, remember how I was saying it was horrible? I'm in the best financial position as a woman that I've ever been in.
Yeah.
You know, better job, better career, better money, better opportunities. I had written one book in that relationship. I've now written 5 books. Even that car that I was so sad about having to lose, I didn't even have to buy myself a car.
Imagine.
Now I drive brand new showroom vehicles, 0 mileage, and I can change them every week if I want to.
Fueled.
And fueled. There's even another Bible verse. Yes, there's another Bible verse about God will give you wine from vineyards you didn't even plant. Honestly, He has restored 10 times over. If you've decided that leaving is what you want to do,
yes,
it will be hard. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. But God doesn't play when it comes to His daughters. He does not play at all. And so healing will come, even financial healing.
It's always going to come. Never give up. Yeah, you were born to win at every aspect of your life. So trust in the fact that you can do it. Trust in the fact that you will overcome whatever situation you're going through today.
And you deserve it.
You deserve it. So that's it from us on Heart to Heart with Mike and Shiko. Ooh, you haven't even said the name of the podcast
because
yet.
I am not sure we are committing to it
No,
yet.
we are committing to it.
We are committing to it.
This is where I have to make an executive decision, because if I leave this to Shiko, what's going to happen is she's going to change her mind 12 to 20 times. So we're sticking with it. We're rolling with it. It's Heart to Heart with Mike and Shiko. We're 2 grown-ups in their 30s and 40s.
Yes.
You can guess who's in their 30s and who's in their 40s.
Can they though?
Yeah. Shiko's in her 30s.
Late 30s.
I'm in my 40s.
Yes.
And of course, we are navigating our blended family.
Yes.
And of course, navigating this relationship in our 30s and 40s. It's all about starting over. It's all about remembering that you can always start again. Don't always feel like it's too late.
Never too late.
So go ahead and drop a comment. Kumbuka to follow us, subscribe on our YouTube page, and also subscribe on our Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and catch us next Sunday.
Every Sunday.
12 p.m.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. My name's Mike Mondo.
And I'm Shikonguru.
We'll see you next time.